Hi, and welcome to What's the Buzz, the only show of its kind that spotlights the entertainment scene in Southern Maryland. I'm your host, James LePore, and this is episode number 258. We are brought to you by our sponsor, Purple Post Real Estate. Before we get started, right now we are here at New Direction Community Theater, and before we talk about the latest production, we want to mention that on October 6th, New Direction lost its founding member, director, actor, amazing creative talent, friend, Keith Murphy. This is an enormous blow to the theater community in Southern Maryland, and as such, we are dedicating this show to Keith. And Keith, I'm sure you're up there watching us, and you'll be pleased to know that I finally drilled it into my head that it's New Direction, not New Directions. And I'm sorry it took so long. Okay, tonight we are here to talk about the latest production, Bell, Book, and Candle. And we're very grateful to have all the talented actors, as well as both the director and the assistant director, to fill us in on the details of this super funny, or maybe supernatural, show. But first, the backstory. May I quote Wikipedia? Bell, Book, and Candle is a 1958 American fantasy romantic comedy film directed by Richard Quine from a screenplay by Daniel Taradash, based on the 1950 Broadway play of the same name by John Van Druten. The movie starred Kim Novak as a witch who casts a spell on her neighbor, played by James Stewart. The supporting cast features Jack Lemmon, Ernie Kovacs, Hermione Gingold, Elsa Lanchester, and Janice Rule. The film is considered Stewart's final role as a romantic lead. Does that mean this is your final role as a romantic lead?
I hope so.
Oh, okay. Allow me to introduce the director of the show, Rick Thompson, and the assistant director, Heather LePore, yes, who happens to be my wife, and producers, and the actors who make all this come alive. May I ask you to introduce yourselves one at a time and the role you play, starting with Miss Dee Dee.
I'm Dee Dee Only. I play Jillian Holroyd.
I'm Justin McCray. I play Shepard Henderson.
I am Lane Becker, and I play Nicholas Holroyd.
Linda Hjortdahl, and I'm playing Aunt Queenie.
Sheila Hyman, and I'm playing Sydney Rutledge.
Very well. Rick, since you are the man at the helm of this ship, I'll ask you first for a brief synopsis of Bell, Book, and Candle, please.
Well, I mean, it's pretty straightforward that Jillian wants to meet some people who aren't witches, and she decides that Shepard Henderson is the one, and she puts a spell on him, aided by her cat, Tywacket, who we use a real cat named Vader Mervine, and it goes on from there. You know, witches aren't supposed to be able to fall in love, but things don't work out as she expects.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And what drew you personally to the show, aside from the fact that it's Halloween season, of course?
Well, actually, the show's been on my radar since the mid-'70s. A group I was with in Prince George's County, we had just had a show that I directed that had a big cast and had an incredible turnout. And we wanted a follow-up show, and this was one of the possibilities, but we decided with all the new people that we had, we wanted a bigger cast show, and that's why we did You Can't Take It With You. Now, there's been 2 other times I was supposed to do this show, but other things intervened along the way. The last time I was at Newtown, I wound up doing God's Favor instead.
So we're glad you did, but that's another story.
So it finally happened here.
Very good. Heather, putting you on the spot, first time on camera, how do you define the term itself, Bell, Book, and Candle?
Well, Bell, Book, and Candle is actually in a form, the last line in a rite of excommunication by the Catholic Church.
Uh-oh. I'll
So-
probably hear that at some point in my life, I'm sure.
You should have already.
Yeah, right, sure.
So, Bell, Book, and Candle is actually referenced in the show, and that will give you further understanding of what it means.
Okay. You told me at home, don't ask too many questions about that because it gives away too much of the plot. True?
It just gives away a big surprise.
Gotcha. Dee, I understand that you were originally going to play Linda's role, Aunt Queenie, correct? Before playing Jillian, the lead. How did that happen, and how hard was it to stop midstream and go in another direction? What, like a month into it, or a couple weeks
About a
into it?
month into rehearsal. Unfortunately, Amanda Connolly, who was originally playing Jillian, was unable to continue with the show, and so she decided to drop out, and I was asked to step into this role.
Were you shocked?
That she left?
No, shocked that you suddenly had to. But I think it's cool that it's kind of like promoting from within, you know, as opposed to.
We discussed it as a board, and we decided to make some, on how we were going to adjust, and so that's how it happened.
Plus, knowing you as well as I do, you can play anything, so you're always a safe bet to
Thank
stick
you.
in any show.
And
Linda,
the
you.
difficulty in it is that, aside from about 2 pages, she's on stage the whole show.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Linda, you're the new kid on the block, so you stepped in to fill Dee Dee's former role, Aunt Queenie. Was it intimidating joining a show that is already a month in production and you kind of had to catch up to speed?
It was. I mean, it certainly shortened the amount of time you have to memorize the lines. I mean, every day was at home going over the book and listening and driving my husband crazy. But does kind of shorten things how long you got to prepare.
You were the first one off book, okay?
That's what I was gonna say too, yeah.
Well, I worked really hard at it. That's
We must
why.
all look bad.
I understand Aunt Queenie is a bit of an
Except Stan.
eccentric character. Is that how you got the role there, Linda?
Well, I'm not quite sure how Rick decided to choose me, but I will tell you, I was talking to my mother and sister in Florida, and a mutual friend had been to see the play and sent them a picture of me. And my sister goes, "Is that your hat you're wearing in the play?" And I said, "Yes." "And that mink thing around your neck, isn't that yours?" She's like, "Are you sure you're not playing yourself?"
And I think that's the answer to the question right there. Justin, you are the romantic lead. Is that a role that you are used to, or tell me about it?
I've had a couple of roles already, so I guess you could call it typecasting in a sense. So, this is like the third time I've done it, so I guess whatever works.
Well, I have read some reviews so far, and people are telling me that they're telling all of us that you are a bit of a comedic genius. So very excited to see how you handle.
Very
this.
kind words of them.
Well, how do you keep? Interesting question about rehearsals, right? How do you keep the lines funny after repeating them hundreds and hundreds of times during rehearsals?
Well, I think part of it is just you kind of know that they're basically funny, but you always throw a little twist in there somehow. And for the average audience that hasn't seen the show 50 times, they'll hear the line a single time and then they'll laugh at it. So, but for us, I think we always try to find just a little bit of different inflection or a pause here and there, just to kind of have fun with it.
Well, and the chemistry of everybody on the stage.
Yeah.
You guys sometimes just feed off each other.
And yeah, especially since I've been working with Dee Dee and I'm doing on stage, but working with them long enough, it's like you kind of get a feel for how everybody's going to react and how they do things. So you can kind of play off each other that way too.
And no show is the same every night. It's
Oh.
always
That is
the
very
same.
true.
That is true. Yeah.
That is very true.
Even if all the lines are said exactly the same way every night, the audience is different, and that makes
Yeah,
it
true.
different.
So every actor in the room all said the same thing. Like that's true. That's true. Sheila, your character is Sydney Redlich, right, who's played by Ernie Kovacs,
Right.
famous comedian in the movie. Yet you're obviously a beautiful woman, not a man with
Thank
a
you
big
for the
bushy
thank you.
mustache. How is it possible to change the sex of the character in the show?
Well, I'm an author, so my sex isn't necessarily important. The only thing is being 1950s and a woman and a career woman as part of the twist. I dressed for auditions in witch-like attire with crystals, and my hair was out, and I had flowing robe on, and Rick had said the idea of maybe switching the off from being suit and tie to more exotic, and that was one of the initials.
When she auditioned, it was, I always felt the show ought to look normal, but something be off center. And that's why, yes, we always have a Christmas tree, only here it's black at Christmas time. And we have, and so Sydney I wanted something that would be unusual, and she came in, and yeah, that was what I wanted.
Mhm.
We had to get permission from the copyright owners to switch the gender of the part.
Gotcha. That's an
And that
important
came-
point right there.
And that came, and they approved it, and so here we are, and it's exactly what I was hoping.
And it
for.
lucked out that the name Sydney could be
Right.
for male or female. Blaine, now your character Nikki, that's Jillian's brother, correct?
Correct.
So now, dramatically speaking, what role does the role of Nikki serve? And I understand you have a little partnership with Sydney over here that causes some problems, a little drama.
Right. So Nicky, he's just
He's an ass.
He gets up. Yeah. He likes to pull antics, and that is a big part of the plot of the show. Is he kind of gets under his sister's skin, and he kind of derails a situation, especially when he goes to Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because everything is kind of involved. Everything that all the characters are doing are kind of intertwined. They all come together to a point. So it's kind of like Nikki likes to just kind of unravel that point and
Mm-hmm.
try to mess with everything.
Oh, we know a lot of people that like doing that, don't we? Rick,
Like you?
right? Rick, did you let the cast watch the movie? Did you tell them not to, or what's your policy?
I did not tell them to. I told them I just was, I didn't care, but that the play is quite different from the movie. I mean, there are characters in the movie. You mentioned the Hermione Gingold part.
Mhm.
That part isn't in the play.
Okay.
The Janice Rule part is not in the play.
Mm-hmm.
These are all the characters in the play, the movie and its stuff, and James Stewart is it is a little, everything is different, and the chemistry of everything. Sydney's a man in the movie and not here, so we just assume let's do the show that's in the script.
So,
And build it and develop the characters, and these folks all did that.
gotcha. So actors, did you watch it?
I had seen it before a couple months ago because I live on TCM, the
Mhm.
old movies, but I did not watch it once I was cast.
Oh, what about the rest of you?
I saw it when I was young. So
You're
I'm
still
a
young.
huge, well, thank you. But I'm a huge black and white movie
Mhm.
fan, 50s, 40s, 30s, romantic comedy kind of thing. And so I saw it probably 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and always loved the character of Jillian. Always loved that movie. It's one of those that I've seen multiple times. So yeah, it's
And little did you think that you would be in that role. All right, everybody, who had the most fun with their roles during rehearsals? I always find that there's usually one person that's doing all the cutting up and.
I find that that's a combination between Linda and Blaine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's been pretty fun.
That's why you stuck them alone here on the couch, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
you don't know what kind
There
of
are
trouble they're gonna get
troublemakers.
into.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Justin and Dee Dee, I know you both have a tremendous amount of lines to learn. Do you have any particular tricks that people would be interested how actors learn a tremendous amount of lines?
I find I actually learn better by not only doing but listening.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's actually something that I started doing, 10 plus years ago when I started working with New Direction, where we would record the show, record all the lines, break it up, listen to it. Linda was talking about listening to it in the car, and
Mhm.
so listening to it on repetition and repeating it and saying it over with myself. That's the way I learn the best.
Yeah, everybody has a different method to do things. For me, it's more like word association, where if you pick keywords out, that's where you kind of remember, okay, I hit that word, I hit that word, I hit that word, and it kind of fills in from there.
Mm-hmm.
Which screws everybody else up,
Sequiturs.
but as long as I get those keywords in, hopefully they'll get those important cues to
Right.
As long as you're not hitting your non sequiturs.
Yeah. Well, those I just hope they just drop and get kicked underneath.
That's one thing there were so many shows, including the last 4 or 5 that I've been involved in one way or another, where the first act is just loaded with non sequiturs. Just suddenly out of the blue, the person says this.
and for that, and you know this, Rick. For that, it's just something I have like a mental menu of things. Again, those keywords that I have to hit, and those key subjects that you got to hit.
What a great turn of a phrase too. Mental menu. I like
As a
that.
matter of fact, the previous show, in addition to all the non sequiturs, there was a whole bunch of, oh, would you like this food? Pass this food. All in the first act.
Gotcha. Now, New Direction does not have a permanent theater like some theater groups do. So let me ask all the actors: how exciting was it to finally finish up Wizard of Oz and actually get on your own set for rehearsals? Makes a big difference.
It does a huge difference.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I can interject on this, the difficulty is that instead of working on our own show, we're also helping break that show down as well. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit of a crunch, I would say. So that kind of hurt us as far as learning lines and getting things done. But once we transition to the full set off and go,
Who
It
was
was
responsible?
something.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say it was something we decided to try a
Yeah.
little bit different this time. Keep the space for 2 shows back to back.
Mhm.
In some ways it worked. In other ways it was more difficult and more
Yeah.
demanding
Mhm.
for all of us, especially those of us
It worked out in general.
who were
It was just
really busy
taxing
with the
for
other
us.
show as well. Yeah.
it was just texting for us because we had
Right,
months,
'cause-
so.
Right, and we work on both shows. So, but from the perspective of doing this as a homeless theater, I mean, it's always very challenging for folks. We're rehearsing wherever we can find free space,
Mhm.
right? So, community centers, libraries, people's homes, sometimes. But, and so, you
Maybe
you
a
have
little
to.
Walmart. Those
You have-
people doing it.
You
You
really
laugh,
have
it
to.
might happen.
Hey, we've practiced in parking lots before, we have, but,
Yep.
but no, so you just have to have a lot of imagination, you have to keep in mind what you're trying to do, generally map things out,
Mhm.
and it is more challenging for actors, but, it's
I think the
fun.
fact that we've been in this space long enough that we kind of know
Yeah.
the system pretty well.
Unfortunately, none of those guys, well, Blaine's been in our space before,
Mhm.
but Linda and Sheila both have been working in this space before, so it's a little bit different.
And my character has a lot of physicality to my role, and I have a lot of movement, and it's trying to time the movement, because I want to be, like we were saying, keywords, I want it to be at this part of the stage, or I have to be this part of the stage for blocking, and configuration is different, the amount of space you have to work in
Mhm.
is different, so it's an adjustment.
Gotcha. Now, who designed the set?
Well, and another thing interesting about that, the first time that we rehearsed in here, even though it was the other show set that was still on,
Mhm.
because they still had another weekend to run, it was like the whole performance clicked up a little bit,
Gotcha.
because we were in where we were doing the show. Okay, now I know I have this distance to play in, and I have
Yeah.
that distance to go in, and just everybody, it just clicked up more.
I know what it's like, and I when I learn dialogue, I tie it to the blocking, so I'm always excited to get on the set as fast as humanly possible, as that helps me as an actor.
Well, that was just being in the building,
Right.
that everything clicked up. It was quite something to
It was
watch.
interesting working on the Wizard of Oz set, and
Yes.
Bell, Book, Candle, and Wizard, it all goes together.
Well, which was.
That's part 2.
The part two. Yeah, Rick, did you design this set?
Actually, it was kind of a combination of Sherry Mervine, because it gave me okay. Said I wanted to have an archway over there and a door about here,
Mhm.
and then she designed hers so that we could do a quick turnover. I mean, there was an archway here that she had for her show in addition to,
Mhm.
and the door turned the other way. But I mean, they came up, I don't know who came up with the idea that her flaps were basically over the top of this,
Mhm.
and they just unscrewed them all.
No, it's very clever. Is that something that you think that this theater company will continue to do?
I don't know, but I mean, it was brilliant when they came up
Yeah,
with that
like-
idea.
Yeah, no.
Like I said, it had its challenges, it was good, but it also had its challenges, so it made transition a little bit easier, but from the perspective of,
I think it's all
it
working.
worked out really well. Yeah, it's like,
I
that,
would do it again.
that wall had a hole in it, so we covered up with another flat. That one actually is an arch behind that that one over there. So, we have very modular set pieces. that we're able to read.
I think we'll bother Justin with another question. So, I heard this story that there was a prop needed for this show that was virtually impossible to get, and yet you stepped up and you made it happen. Can you tell me about that?
I made the mistake of volunteering my services.
Well,
The mask that was required for part of the show, you can see it here. The original mask, well, we didn't have a decision on the mask, but upon perusing different sources, Amazon, eBay, everything, those masks were running, what, $40, $50 or something like that? Quite a bit.
And the thing is,
Each.
is, we had to have two because
We had to have
there's
two,
the,
right.
the one there, and then in the second act, there's the broken one.
There's a broken
The
one.
same
So
thing.
we had to find two masks the same, and presumably
And then
break
break
one.
one.
I can understand
So-
that that would only add to making it like virtually
So
impossible.
the alternative was like, hey, I have this 3D printer, maybe I can just print one. And so after 5 days of printing,
Yeah.
that's one that came out.
It's
And then-
hard to believe it. It's absolutely amazing too. Maybe this could be a whole new career for you. 3Ding props for community theater shows.
I already do that as a hobby, so.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
so
Now-
it's kind of a natural extension.
And then the painting on it, that was Sheila.
That was Sheila.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, the retired art teacher stepped in and said, a black on black 3D object under lights isn't going to show details.
Right. No, this really comes alive. I love it. Rick and Heather, this is the second time that you have done the director, assistant director thing. What's behind this good working chemistry that you have?
I don't know.
Is it good?
I don't know either.
I mean, you
Wait,
can,
which one of you sees?
you can
This was my
either,
last romantic lead role, by the way. I just sealed it.
you can either work with someone or you can't.
Mhm.
You find out, and you may decide, okay, I'm not going to work with that person ever again. Well, obviously that was not. I didn't have that problem with Heather because here we are working again.
Good.
And I absolutely love working with Rick. Everything is easy. We kind of get in a rhythm and we know what the other one is thinking.
And this
Just
is
try to
true.
get
She doesn't come
things-
home and complain about you or anything.
Try to get things done as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Mm-hmm. Now, everybody, without spoiling too much or anything, what do you think the audience is going to be most surprised
The live cat.
Live cat.
by? Live
Yeah,
You don't
yes.
follow children or animals. He upstages us all the time.
It must be hard working with something that is unpredictable. I mean, does
I don't have to. She does.
Alright, so it's all
I'm the only
on
one
STD.
who really deals with Vader on the set.
Is there any time where he wants to kind of go and you have to
So
restrain?
we had one instance last weekend during the show where he was tired of being on stage, and he started to move, and so I let him go, and he crawled across my shoulder and went across the couch, and then went and sat
Look over here somewhere.
and went up stage
Sat
and
right
just
there.
sat there and started scratching himself, and he just sat there.
Oh, that's cool. Must look
Yeah.
very natural.
Yeah, he was fine. The only thing that really, not to tell people they shouldn't clap, but the clapping during the curtain call is a little bit shocking for him. But I think he's gotten used to it now. He's okay. So,
He's getting used to the stardom,
yes,
He's the star, so he gets the last bow.
I'm sorry he's not here tonight for all of us to meet him. Heather, how long is the show?
The show is 2.5 hours with a brief 15-minute intermission.
Mhm.
But, being live theater, it may run a little long, a little shorter, who knows?
Okay. Blaine, would you say that this show is suitable for all ages?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nothing in it that little 10, 11-year-old shouldn't see, or
No, I don't think
I mean,
so.
well,
There's a couple curse words.
There's some
there's some
innuendo.
well, our
there's
kids
some-
live with their mother, the sailor, so they're used
Yeah.
to it. But
Mild innuendos and some language, but
I mean,
again, with the kids being 10 and 11, there's nothing we don't hear at home.
At no point is your 6-year-old or 7-year-old going, Mommy, what does that word mean?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. There
No.
aren't any of those.
okay, good deal. The show runs from October 28th through November 5th, with Friday and Saturday performances being at 7 p.m. and Sunday matinees at 2 p.m.
No more Sunday matinees.
So we're done with
weekend
Sunday
was on
matinees.
Sunday.
That was last weekend.
Then just forget that whole part. Just Fridays and Saturdays at 7 p.m. It's performed right here at the Long Beach Community Center, which is 5845 Calvert Boulevard in St. Leonard, Maryland. You can get tickets at ndctheater.org, and it's theater ER, not the pretentious RE way I spell it. But tickets are $15 for regular people, and students and seniors get in for $12. It's a bargain. I want to thank my sponsor, Purple Post Real Estate, and my producer, Heather LePore. If any of you companies would like to be an additional sponsor for the show, please message us on the Facebook page. We want to thank New Direction. Hey, there you go, Keith, I did it again. New Direction Theater for having us. Please like, share, subscribe, all the Facebook and YouTube things. We appreciate it. That way you don't miss the coverage of any really great shows like this one or any of them at multiple theaters, as well as musical performances all over Southern Maryland. We appreciate it more than you know. That about wraps it up. I just want to say, please treat yourself to a night of laughter happening right in front of you, live. It is so much better than staying home and watching TV. You, my friends, have been watching What's the Buzz. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Okay.